Chapter 1. The warning in his eyes. I should have kept my mouth shut. That's what I told myself later, when the blood had been mopped up and the police had left, and my hands finally stopped shaking. I should have minded my own business, poured the coffee, collected my tips, and gone home to my cramped studio apartment like I did every other Tuesday night. But something in his eyes stopped me. He'd walked into Romano's diner at 11:47 p.m. I remember because I'd just checked my watch, counting down the last 13 minutes of my shift. The bell above the door chimed, and I looked up from wiping down the counter to see him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. And when his eyes swept the empty diner, I felt the temperature drop. He wasn't alone. 3 men flanked him, all wearing similar suits, all carrying themselves like coiled springs. They moved with the kind of precision that made my survival instincts kick in, the ones I'd honed growing up in the wrong part of Brooklyn, where you learned to read danger before it read you. "Sit anywhere," I called out, my voice steadier than I felt. He chose the corner booth. Of course he did. Back to the wall, clear view of both exits. His men positioned themselves strategically, one near the door, one at the counter, one standing just behind his booth like a shadow made flesh. I grabbed a pot of coffee and headed over, my worn sneakers squeaking against the checkered linoleum. Up close, he was even more devastating. Sharp cheekbones, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled, and eyes the color of whiskey in dim light. There was a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow, and I found myself wondering what kind of fight had put it there. "Coffee?" I asked, keeping my tone professional. He looked up at me, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just us. His gaze moved over my face with an intensity that made heat crawl up my neck. Not sexual, exactly more like he was cataloging every detail, filing me away for future reference. "Please." His voice was deep, textured with an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe, or Sicilian. I poured, trying not to notice how his hands looked against the white ceramic strong, scarred knuckles, a silver ring on his right hand engraved with something I couldn't make out. The kind of hands that could hurt you. The kind that probably had. "Food?" I asked. "Just coffee. Black." I nodded and turned to leave, but then I saw him. The man in the parking lot, visible through the window. He was crouched beside a black sedan, not hiding, exactly, but not announcing himself either. The streetlight caught the edge of something metallic in his hand. A gun. My heart lurched. I'd seen guns before hell. My brother had been killed by one 3 years ago. I knew that particular glint, that specific shape, and I knew, with the kind of gut certainty that had kept me alive this long, that the man outside wasn't here for a late-night coffee run. I looked back at the man in the booth. He was checking his phone, completely unaware. His bodyguards were focused on the interior, scanning for threats inside the diner, not outside. Every logical cell in my brain screamed at me to walk away. This wasn't my problem. These were clearly dangerous men, the kind you didn't get involved with unless you had a death wish. Whatever drama was unfolding here, I wanted no part of it. But my brother's face flashed through my mind. Michael, 23, shot in a drive-by because he'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. No warning, no chance. I made my decision in less than a heartbeat. I set the coffee pot down on his table and leaned in close enough to smell his cologne, expensive, cedar and smoke. Close enough to see his pupils dilate slightly as I invaded his space. "Don't move," I whispered, my lips nearly brushing his ear. "There's a man. Outside. Driver's side of the black sedan. He has a gun pointed at this window." He went absolutely still. Not the freeze of fear, the freeze of a predator assessing a threat. "How do you know?" His voice was barely audible, calm as glass. "I grew up in Bed-Stuy. I know what a gun looks like." I straightened, picked up the coffee pot, and smiled like I'd just told him about the daily specials. "Your men are watching the wrong direction." For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then everything happened at once. He made some kind of gesture so subtle I almost missed it, and suddenly his men were moving. The one by the door slipped outside like smoke. The one at the counter had his hand inside his jacket. The one behind the booth stepped forward, positioning himself between his boss and the window. The man in the booth, my mysterious customer, stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. "Get down." It wasn't a suggestion. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me down just as the window exploded. Glass rained over us like deadly confetti. I heard shouting, the sharp crack of gunfire, the The screech of tires. Someone was screaming, maybe me. I couldn't tell. The man's body covered mine completely. One hand cradling my head, the other reaching for something at his hip. The shooting lasted maybe 30 seconds. It felt like hours. When silence finally fell, broken only by car alarms and my ragged breathing, he pulled back just enough to look at me. His face was inches from mine, and I could see flecks of gold in those whiskey eyes. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. "Good." He stood, pulling me up with him like I weighed nothing. Glass crunched under our feet. The diner looked like a war zone, shattered windows, bullet holes in the walls, coffee spreading across the floor in a dark pool. His men were already cleaning up, moving with efficient precision. One was on the phone, speaking rapid Italian. Another was sweeping glass. The one who'd gone outside returned, dragging someone behind him. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't help it. The man from the parking lot was unconscious, blood streaming from his nose, his gun confiscated. "Boss," the bodyguard said, his tone respectful but urgent. "We need to move. Police will be here in 5 minutes." The boss. Of course. I'd just saved a mob boss. My legs started to shake. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by the crushing reality of what I'd done, what I'd gotten involved in. He was still holding my wrist. His thumb pressed against my pulse point, and I wondered if he could feel my heart trying to hammer its way out of my chest. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sophia?" I heard myself say. "Sophia Russo." Something flickered across his face. Recognition? Surprise? It was gone too quickly to read. "Sophia Russo," he repeated, like he was tasting my name. "You saved my life tonight." My voice cracked. "I just saw the gun. I didn't think—" "No," he interrupted, his grip on my wrist tightening fractionally. "You did think. You assessed the situation and made a choice. A brave, foolish choice." I couldn't tell if that was a compliment or a criticism. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. His men shifted restlessly, but he didn't seem concerned. He was still looking at me like I was a puzzle he needed to solve. "You can't stay here," he said. "When the police arrive, they'll have questions. Questions you don't want to answer. I work here. You have to come with me. It wasn't a request. My men will handle this. Your manager will be compensated for the damage. But you," his thumb stroked once across my pulse, almost gentle. "You're coming with me." Fear and something else, something dangerous, coiled in my stomach. "Why?" The corner of his mouth lifted, barely a smile. "Because, Sophia Russo, you've just become very valuable, and very, very vulnerable." He released my wrist only to slide his hand to the small of my back, proprietary and possessive. His touch burned through my thin uniform. "Let's go." And because I was stupid, or brave, or maybe just in shock, I let him guide me toward the door. I let him settle me into the back of a sleek black SUV. I let him sit beside me, close enough that our thighs touched, while his driver navigated through Brooklyn's late-night streets. It wasn't until we'd been driving for 10 minutes that I found my voice again. "Where are we going?" He turned to look at me, and in the passing streetlights, his face was all shadows and angles. "Somewhere safe," he said, "until I figure out why someone wants me dead badly enough to shoot up a public diner." His eyes held mine, and until I figure out who you really are, Sophia Russo. My blood turned to ice. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said softly, dangerously, "that Russo is a very interesting name in my world, and I don't believe in coincidences." The SUV turned down a dark street, and I realized with growing horror that I had no idea where we were. No phone, it was still in my locker at the diner. No weapon, no way out. I'd saved his life, and now I was completely at his mercy. Chapter 2. The Name That Changes Everything. The house mansion sat behind iron gates that looked like they could stop a tank. As we pulled through, I caught glimpses of manicured gardens, marble fountains, and security cameras positioned every 10 feet. This wasn't just wealth. This was fortress-level paranoia wrapped in luxury. My stomach churned. "Mr. Valentini," one of his men said from the front seat. "Should I have Marco prepare the guest room?" Valentini. The name hit me like a physical blow. Dante Valentini. I'd heard that name before, whispered in hushed tones by my uncle, muttered by cops who patrolled our neighborhood, splashed across newspapers when I was too curious for my own good. The Valentini family wasn't just mob, they were the mob. They controlled everything from shipping to real estate, restaurants to politicians. Cross them, and you disappeared. And I'd just climbed into a car with their leader. No, Dante said, his eyes still on me. The East Wing, postcards. For her protection or yours. I couldn't stop myself from asking. His mouth curved, not quite a smile, more like a predator appreciating prey with spirit. Both. The SUV stopped beneath a covered portico. Dante exited first, then extended his hand to help me out. I ignored it and climbed out myself, my sneakers looking absurdly out of place against the pristine stone driveway. The front door opened before we reached it. A man in his 60s, dressed in an impeccable suit, stood waiting. His expression was carefully neutral, but I saw his eyes flick to me, then back to Dante. Sir, I wasn't expecting company. Neither was I, Marco. Dante's hand returned to my back, guiding me forward. This is Sofia Russo. She'll be staying with us. Guest suite in the East Wing. Post 2 men outside her door. Of course. Marco's professionalism never wavered, but I caught the slight raise of his eyebrows. Should I prepare anything? Refreshments? A change of clothes? I looked down at my coffee-stained uniform, the Romano's Diner logo cheerful and grotesque on my chest. I probably smelled like grease and fear. Yes, Dante said, and have Dr. Chen come by. Make sure she wasn't injured. I'm fine, I protested, but he silenced me with a look. You were caught in a shooting. You'll be examined. The tone left no room for argument. This was a man used to absolute obedience, and the scary part was how easily I almost gave it to him. Marco disappeared down a hallway, and Dante led me in the opposite direction. The house was stunning, all marble and dark wood, crystal chandeliers and artwork that probably belonged in museums. Every surface gleamed, every corner held shadows. Why am I really here? I asked, as we climbed a curved staircase. You said I was valuable and vulnerable. What does that mean? It means, Dante said carefully, that you witnessed an assassination attempt on me. That makes you a potential witness. Someone my enemies might target to keep you quiet or to extract information. I don't know anything. They don't know that. We reached a landing, and he paused, turning to face me fully. Up close, in the warm lighting of his home, he was even more devastating and more dangerous. Tell me about your family. My throat tightened. Why? Because Russo isn't a common name in our circles. Your father, what was his name? I corrected sharply, is his name, Anthony Russo. He works construction. And your mother? Dead. When I was 12. Something flickered in his eyes, sympathy, maybe, or recognition. Siblings? My hands clenched into fists. A brother. Michael. He died 3 years ago. How? Why do you care? The words came out harsh, defensive. Dante stepped closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. His presence was overwhelming, not just physical, but something else, an intensity that made the air feel thick. I care, he said softly, because 3 hours ago, a waitress I'd never met risked her life to warn me about an assassin. That kind of courage doesn't come from nowhere. So I'll ask again, how did your brother die? I wanted to lie, to tell him to go to hell. But there was something in his voice, something almost gentle beneath the command, that loosened my tongue. Drive-by shooting, wrong place, wrong time. He was walking home from his shift at the warehouse. My voice cracked. They never caught who did it. The cops barely investigated. Dante's jaw tightened. What warehouse? Castellano Import Company. Why does it? I stopped. Watched his expression shift from curious to something darker. What? What is it? Castellano, he said slowly, is one of my warehouses. The world tilted. Your brother worked for me, Sofia. No, that couldn't be right. Michael had. Never mentioned, but then, he wouldn't have, would he? He'd always been protective, keeping me away from his world. From anything dangerous. You're lying, I whispered. I don't lie. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something, then turned the screen toward me. It was a personnel file. Michael Russo, warehouse clerk, hired 2 years before his death. My knees went weak. Dante caught me, his hands firm on my arms. Breathe, he commanded. Just breathe. Did you... I couldn't form the words. Did you have something to do with No, the word was absolute, but I should have protected him better. My warehouses, my responsibility. His grip tightened fractionally. The shooting, it was retaliation from the Marchetti family, a territorial dispute. Your brother was collateral damage. Collateral damage. Such cold words for Michael's bright smile, his terrible jokes, the way he used to ruffle my hair and call me squirt even when I was too old for it. Why didn't anyone tell me? My voice broke. Why didn't you? I didn't know, Dante said, and for the first time, I heard something like regret in his tone. I have hundreds of employees. I can't know every name, every face, but I should have. He stopped, his jaw working. The families of those killed in that attack received compensation. Did you? I shook my head. My father had been too proud to accept what he'd called blood money from anyone. Dante cursed softly in Italian. That ends now. You'll be taken care of. I don't want your money, I spat, jerking away from his touch. I want my brother back. I want the tears came before I could stop them. Hot and angry and 3 years overdue. God, I want him back. For a moment Dante just looked at me. Then, slowly, he pulled me against his chest. His suit jacket was soft against my cheek, and he smelled like cedar and gunpowder and something uniquely him. His hand came up to cradle the back of my head, his touch surprisingly gentle for someone so dangerous. I know, he murmured. I know what it's like to lose someone, to carry that weight. I shouldn't have taken comfort from him. He was a criminal, a killer probably, the head of an empire built on violence and fear, but his heartbeat was steady beneath my ear, and his arms felt safe, and I was so tired of being alone. We stood like that for longer than we should have. Finally I pulled back, wiping my eyes with the back of my hand. This is insane, I said. All of this. I should go home. You can't. His voice was gentle but firm. Not tonight. Not until I know who ordered that hit and why. His fingers brushed my cheek, catching a stray tear. And not until I know you're safe. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything, he corrected. You saved my life, Sophia Russo. That creates a debt, and I always pay my debts. The way he said it sent a shiver down my spine, not entirely from fear. Marco appeared at the end of the hallway, discreet as a ghost. Sir? The suite is ready, and Dr. Chen is waiting. Dante nodded, then turned back to me. Get some rest. We'll talk more in the morning. And if I want to leave? His smile was sharp as broken glass. Then you'll discover that my hospitality, while genuine, is not optional. Not yet. He was gone before I could respond, his footsteps echoing down the hall. Marco gestured for me to follow, leading me to a room that was bigger than my entire apartment, all cream silk and antique furniture and windows that overlooked gardens lit by soft landscape lighting. If you need anything, Marco said, there's an intercom by the bed. Dr. Chen will be here shortly. He paused at the door. Miss Russo? For what it's worth, you did the right thing tonight. Mr. Valentini is important to many people. Then he closed the door, and I heard the distinct sound of guards taking position outside. I was trapped in a mansion with the most dangerous man in New York, and the terrifying part? I wasn't sure I wanted to escape. Chapter 3. Breakfast with the Devil. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the muzzle flash through the diner window, heard the crack of gunfire, felt Dante's body covering mine, and underneath it all, one thought circled like a vulture. Michael worked for him. Dr. Chen had been thorough and kind, checking me for injuries I didn't have, offering a sedative I refused. After she left, I showered in the marble bathroom that was probably worth more than a year of my salary, then pulled on the silk pajamas someone had left folded on the bed. They fit perfectly, which was either impressive efficiency or deeply unsettling. When dawn finally broke, painting the gardens gold and rose, I gave up on sleep entirely. I found my uniform cleaned and pressed in the closet, but there was also a selection of other clothes, jeans in my size, soft sweaters, even undergarments still in their packaging. Either Dante had a woman on staff with excellent instincts, or he'd had someone research me. Given that he'd pulled up Michael's employment file within seconds, I suspected the latter. I dressed in the jeans and a gray sweater, then tried the door. It opened immediately. The guards, 2 massive men with earpieces and barely concealed weapons, didn't stop me. But they fell into step behind me as I navigated the maze of hallways. I followed the smell of coffee and found myself in a dining room that looked like something from a period drama. Long table, high ceilings, more crystal and china than any human could possibly need. And at the head of it all, Dante Valentini, reading a newspaper like he didn't have a care in the world. He'd changed into a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and scattered with scars. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd showered recently, and morning sunlight caught the strong lines of his face. He looked up as I entered, and something in his expression softened. "Good morning. I wasn't sure you'd sleep." "I didn't." I hovered near the doorway, suddenly uncertain. Can I, sit?" He gestured to the chair on his right, not at the far end of the table but close, almost intimate. "Are you hungry?" Before I could answer, Marco appeared with a tray fresh fruit, pastries, eggs, bacon, toast. Enough food for 5 people. "I usually just have coffee," I said, but my stomach betrayed me with a growl. When had I last eaten? Before my shift yesterday, probably. Dante's mouth curved. "Eat, Sophia. You're safe here." Was I? I wasn't sure. But the food smelled incredible, and my body overruled my brain's protests. I filled my plate, acutely aware of his eyes on me. "Did you learn anything?" I asked between bites. "About the shooter?" "Some." He set down his newspaper. "His name was Luca Torino. Hired gun out of Queens. He's been linked to the Zanetti family, one of our rivals." "One of your rivals?" I corrected. "Not mine. I'm not part of this world. You became part of it the moment you warned me." His tone was matter of fact, not unkind. "The Zanettis will want to know how I knew about Torino. They'll review security footage from the diner, piece together what happened, and they'll see you." My appetite vanished. What does that mean for me? "It means you stay under my protection until I neutralize the threat." He leaned back, studying me. "I have people looking into whether the Zanettis know your identity yet. If they don't, we have time. If they do," he paused, "then you'll need to stay here longer. Weeks, possibly." "Weeks?" I set down my fork. "I have a job, an apartment, a life. You have a job at a diner that's currently a crime scene, an apartment in a neighborhood with minimal security, and a life that just became exponentially more complicated." His voice gentled slightly. "I'm not trying to be cruel, Sophia. I'm trying to keep you alive." "By imprisoning me? By protecting you?" He leaned forward, his intensity pinning me in place. "Do you know what the Zanettis do to loose ends? They don't just kill. They make examples. He stopped himself, jaw tight. "You don't want to know." But I did know. I'd grown up in Brooklyn. I'd heard the stories, seen the aftermath, bodies found in dumpsters, families that disappeared overnight. "What do you want from me?" I asked quietly. "Why go to all this trouble? You could have just made the problem go away." The euphemism tasted bitter. Dante's eyes darkened. "Is that what you think of me? That I'd kill an innocent woman for witnessing an attack? Isn't that what men like you do?" "Men like me," he repeated, something dangerous in his tone. "You don't know anything about men like me, Sophia. Then tell me." I met his gaze, refusing to look away. "Tell me who Dante Valentini really is." For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then he stood, walked to the window, hands in his pockets. His profile was sharp against the morning light, all hard angles and controlled power. "My father was Salvatore Valentini," he said finally. "He built this empire from nothing. Came over from Sicily with $20 and a dream. By the time he died, he controlled half of New York. His jaw worked. He was also a bastard who ruled through fear and brutality." I stayed quiet, sensing this was important. "When I took over 8 years ago, I made changes. I don't deal in drugs. I don't traffic humans. I don't target civilians." He glanced back at me. "I'm still a criminal, Sophia. I won't pretend otherwise. But I have lines I don't cross. And murdering witnesses is one of them. Murdering innocent women who saved my life is definitely one of them." His smile was wry. "Besides, you intrigue me." My heart stuttered. "I what?" He turned fully, leaning against the window frame. "You're scared. I can see it in your eyes, the way you hold yourself. But you're not backing down. You meet my gaze. You ask questions. You challenge me." He tilted his head. "Most people don't. Maybe most people have better survival instincts. Maybe." He pushed off the window, walking back toward me. Or maybe they're just not brave enough to see me as something other than a monster. He stopped beside my chair, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to see his face. This close, I could see the flecks of gold in his eyes, the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his shirt pulled across his shoulders. "Are you?" he asked softly. "Brave enough?" My mouth went dry. "I don't know what I am anymore." "Then let me tell you." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his fingers brushed my jaw, tilting my face up. His touch was warm, careful. "You're Sophia Russo. You're a survivor. You're loyal. You worked 3 jobs to help your father after Michael died, didn't you?" I nodded mutely, wondering how he knew that. "You're compassionate. You risked your life for a stranger. And you're stronger than you think." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "Strong enough to survive in my world, if you choose to. I don't want to be in your world. I know." His voice was almost sad. "But you are. And until I can guarantee your safety, you're staying in it. In this house, under my protection. As what? Your prisoner? I couldn't say the word that suddenly flooded my mind. "As my guest," he said firmly. "Nothing more. Unless..." He stopped, something dangerous flashing in his eyes. "Unless what?" "Unless you want something more." The words hung between us, heavy with implication. My pulse hammered in my throat, and I knew he could feel it under his fingers. I should have pulled away, should have told him to keep his distance, to never touch me again. But I didn't, because some traitorous part of me, the part that had been alone for too long, that missed Michael and mourned my mother and worried about my father, that part wanted to lean into his touch, wanted to let someone else be strong. For once. "I don't know what I want," I whispered. "Then we'll figure it out together." He pulled back, but his eyes stayed on mine. "For now, consider yourself under house arrest, if it helps. You'll have access to most of the house. The library, the gardens, the pool. My men will shadow you, but they'll be discreet. And you? I have business to attend to, but I'll be back tonight." He picked up his suit jacket from the back of his chair, shrugging it on. "In the meantime, Marco will get you anything you need. Books, movies, clothes, my phone." I interrupted. "I need to call my father. He'll be worried." Dante's expression shuddered. "Your phone was destroyed in the shooting, and I can't let you contact anyone yet. The Zanettis could be monitoring your family, waiting to see who you reach out to. So would I just disappear? Let my dad think I'm dead?" "I'll handle it," he said. "I'll have one of my people contact the diner, say you had a family emergency and had to leave town. Your father will be told you're safe." "By one of your people? That's supposed to reassure him?" Dante's jaw tightened. "It's the best I can offer right now. I'm sorry." And the scary thing was, he sounded like he meant it. He headed for the door, then paused. "Sophia, last night, when you warned me, why did you do it?" I thought about lying, about saying it was instinct, or that I didn't want blood on my conscience. But something in his eyes demanded honesty. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone without warning," I said quietly, "and I wouldn't wish that on anyone." His expression softened, becoming almost unbearably tender. "Neither would I." Then he was gone, leaving me alone in a dining room built for kings, with guards at my back and questions I couldn't answer spinning through my mind. What had I gotten myself into? And why did part of me not want to escape? Chapter 4. When the Wolves Circle. 3 days passed in a strange, surreal limbo. I explored the mansion, of sprawling estate that seemed to expand every time I turned a corner. There was a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, a gym that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel, and gardens that could have been transplanted from Versailles. Marco was always nearby, polite and unobtrusive, making sure I had meals and coffee and anything else I needed. The guards rotated shifts, but there were always 2. They never spoke to me unless I spoke first, and they never let me near any exits. I was a bird in a gilded cage, and I hated it, but I also couldn't deny the twisted safety of it. No worrying about rent, no double shifts at the diner, no walking home alone at 2 a.m. through sketchy neighborhoods. Here, I was protected, provided for, trapped. Dante appeared each evening, usually around 8. He'd find me wherever I was, the library, the garden. Once in the kitchen watching the chef prepare dinner, and we'd talk. About books, about music, about nothing and everything. He asked about my childhood, my dreams, what I'd wanted to be before life got complicated. I asked about his business, Carefully. His family, even more carefully. The scar through his eyebrow. A knife fight. When he was 16. We never mentioned the attraction that hummed between us like a live wire. But it was there. In the way his eyes tracked me when I moved. The way my breath hitched when he stood too close. The way conversations would trail off mid-sentence when our gazes locked. On the fourth morning, everything changed. I was in the library, curled up in a leather chair with a book I wasn't really reading, when the door burst open. One of Dante's men, Angelo, I'd learned his name, was stood there, face grim. "Miss Russo, Mr. Valentini needs to see you. Now." The urgency in his tone made my stomach drop. I followed him through the house to Dante's office, a room I hadn't been permitted to enter before. Dark wood, leather furniture, computer monitors showing security feeds, and Dante behind a massive desk, his face carved from stone. 3 other men stood around him, all wearing similar expressions of barely contained violence. "Sophia," Dante's voice was carefully controlled. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" He gestured to one of the monitors. Security footage from what looked like a warehouse. The timestamp read 2 hours ago. "This is one of my shipping facilities in Red Hook," he said. "The Zanettis hit it this morning. Killed 3 of my men. Destroyed $2 million worth of cargo." My throat tightened. "I'm sorry. But what does that have to do with me?" Dante hit a button, and the footage jumped to a different angle. This time, it showed a car pulling up, men getting out, and on the hood of the car, spray painted in red, "Give US the girl." Ice flooded my veins. "They know," I whispered. "They know about me." "Yes." Dante stood, his movements controlled but radiating fury. "They've been watching. Waiting. And now they're making their move." He walked around the desk, stopping in front of me. "This isn't just about eliminating a witness anymore. They're using you to get to me." "Why? What's so important about me?" "Because I'm protecting you," he said simply. "Because in our world, that means something. It means you're valuable to me, and anything valuable to me is a target." One of his men stepped forward, a man I'd seen before, older, with silver in his hair. "Boss, we need to consider alternatives. If we give them what they want." "No." Dante's voice cracked like a whip. "Not an option, Roberto. She's one girl. They're hitting our operations, killing our people. How many more do we lose before—" I said no. Dante turned, and the look in his eyes made even Roberto step back. "She stays under my protection. Anyone who suggests otherwise can leave now." Silence fell. The men exchanged glances, but no one moved. "Good," Dante said. "Then we adjust strategy. Double security on all facilities. Pull the shipments from Red Hook, and redistribute. And I want every piece of intelligence we have on Zanetti operations delivered to me by tonight." "What about the girl?" Another man asked, younger, with a scar running down his neck. "She stays here. Maximum security protocol. No one in or out without my personal authorization." Dante glanced at me. "I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted. You should give me to them," I heard myself say. Every eye turned to me. "I mean it. I'm not worth people dying." Dante moved so fast I barely saw him. Suddenly he was in front of me, his hands on my shoulders, his face inches from mine. "Don't," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Don't ever say that again." "But you are worth it, Sophia. Do you understand me?" His grip tightened, not painfully, but enough to make his point. "Every man in this room knows the cost of protection. They chose this life. You didn't. And I will burn the entire Zanetti empire to the ground before I let them touch you." The intensity in his eyes stole my breath. This wasn't just about honor or debt anymore. This was something else. Something deeper. "Why?" I whispered. "Why do you care so much?" For a moment, I thought he might answer. His eyes searched mine, and I saw something vulnerable flicker across his face. Then he pulled back, his expression shuddering. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said. But we both knew it was more than that. He turned back to his men. "Get it done. I want updates every 2 hours." They filed out, leaving us alone in the heavy silence of the office. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the warm room. How long can this go on? Weeks? Months? Am I supposed to hide here forever? No. Dante walked to the window, staring out at the grounds. "We'll find a way to end this. Either we neutralize the Zanetti threat, or—" He stopped. "Or what?" He didn't answer for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully neutral. There is one option, one way to make you untouchable. Tell me. He turned, and the look in his eyes made my pulse race. If you were family, if you were under my protection not as a witness, but as, he paused, as someone connected to me personally, a wife, or, are you insane? The words burst out of me. You're talking about what, a fake marriage? Like some kind of Mafia arranged marriage? Not fake, he said quietly. In our world, marriage is binding, sacred, even. If you were my wife, no one would dare touch you. Not the Zanettis, not anyone. I stared at him, trying to process what he was suggesting. You don't even know me. I know enough. He moved closer, his eyes intense. I know you're brave, loyal, stronger than you realize. I know you saved my life without hesitation. I know. He stopped, jaw working. I know that I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the moment you whispered in my ear. My breath caught. Dante, I'm not asking you to decide now, he said quickly. It's just an option, one I wanted you to know existed. He stepped back, creating distance between us. Think about it. In the meantime, you're safe here. Until the next attack, the next warehouse, the next person who dies because of me. Those deaths aren't on you, he said fiercely. They're on the Zanettis, on a system that's been in place long before you entered my life. He moved to his desk, pulling out a folder. I had my people look into your brother's death. The investigation the police dropped. My heart lurched. What did you find? The shooters were Marchetti soldiers. They're all dead now, taken out in retaliation strikes 2 years ago. But the man who ordered the hit, he slid a photograph across the desk. Antonio Marchetti, he's still alive. In prison, but alive. I looked at the photo. A heavy-set man with cold eyes and a cruel mouth. This man had ordered Michael's death, had stolen my brother from me for the sake of territory and money and power. Why are you showing me this? My voice was barely steady. Because you deserve to know the truth. Because, he hesitated, because if you decide to stay in my world, even temporarily, you should know what kind of justice we practice here. What do you mean? His eyes held mine. Antonio Marchetti is in a facility I have influence over. Say the word, and I can make sure he never sees another sunrise. Horror and something darker, something vengeful twisted in my gut. You're offering to kill him for me. I'm offering you closure, justice, the kind the system failed to provide. He came around the desk, stopping close enough that I could feel his body heat. But only if you want it. This is your choice, Sophia, not mine. I thought about Michael, about his funeral, my father's broken sobs, the 3 years of unanswered questions and impotent rage. Part of me, the part that had grown up hard in Brooklyn, wanted to say yes, wanted this man dead for what he'd taken from me. But another part, the part that still believed in right and wrong, in justice over vengeance, recoiled. I don't know, I whispered. I don't know what I want anymore. Dante's hand came up, cupping my face with surprising gentleness. Then don't decide today. But know this. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. Whatever you choose, I'll support it. Your brother deserved better. You deserve better. Tears burned behind my eyes. I didn't ask for any of this. I know. He pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me. I know, Bella, and I'm sorry. For all of it. I shouldn't have let him hold me. Shouldn't have taken comfort from a man who'd just offered murder like other people offered coffee. But his arms felt safe, and I was so tired of being scared and alone. We stood like that until the door opened. Angelo stuck his head in, his expression apologetic. Boss, sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. Dante's arms tightened around me for a moment before he released me. What kind of situation? Security just picked up movement outside the east gate. 3 vehicles, circling the perimeter. Angelo's jaw tightened. Zanetti colors on the plates. The temperature in the room plummeted. Lockdown protocol, Dante ordered, his voice sharp as broken glass. Now, I want every entrance sealed, every man armed and in position. He turned to me. Sophia, you need to go to the safe room. The what? Underground bunker? It's reinforced, secure. If they breach the house, I'm not hiding in a bunker while people fight over me. You don't have a choice. He was already moving, pulling open a drawer in his desk and retrieving a gun. He checked the magazine with practiced efficiency. "Marco will take you. Angelo, get her there now." "Wait," I grabbed his arm. "What are you going to do?" He looked down at my hand on his arm, then up at my face. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. "I'm going to remind the Zanettis why it's a mistake to threaten what's mine." Before I could respond, he pulled me close and kissed me. It was hard and claiming and over too quickly. When he pulled back, his eyes were blazing. "Stay safe, Sophia. I'll come for you when it's done." Then Angelo was pulling me away, and Dante was striding toward the door, checking his weapon, and I heard shouting from somewhere in the house. The wolves had come to the gate, and I was about to find out exactly how savage Dante Valentini could be. Chapter 5. Blood and Promises. The safe room was exactly what it sounded like, a concrete box 10 feet underground, accessed through a hidden panel in the wine cellar. Marco had practically carried me down the stairs while alarms blared through the house, and now I sat on a metal bench, surrounded by emergency supplies and monitors showing security feeds from every angle of the estate. "You'll be safe here," Marco said, his usual composure cracked by urgency. "The door is reinforced steel. Nothing gets through it." "What about you, Dante? The others?" "We do our jobs, Miss Russo." He moved to the door. "Mr. Valentini gave strict orders. You stay here until he comes for you personally. No one else." But the door sealed shut with a hydraulic hiss, cutting off my protest. I was alone. For 5 minutes, I paced the small space, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then I focused on the monitors, watching the chaos unfold in grainy black and white. The 3 vehicles had stopped at the gate. Men poured out at least a dozen, all armed. They didn't try to hide their weapons or their intentions. This wasn't a covert operation. This was a statement. On another monitor, I saw Dante emerge from the house, flanked by at least 20 men. Even in the colorless security footage, his presence was commanding. He walked with the confidence of a man who owned everything he surveyed, stopping just inside the gate. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see the body language. The Zanetti men, I assumed that's who they were, gestured aggressively. Dante stood perfectly still, arms at his sides, head tilted slightly like he was listening to something mildly amusing. Then one of the Zanetti men raised his gun. My scream echoed in the concrete room, but it was pointless. I could only watch, helpless, as everything exploded into violence. Dante moved like liquid death. He disarmed the man before the shot was fired, using him as a human shield when bullets started flying. His men returned fire with devastating precision. Bodies dropped. The Zanettis retreated to their vehicles, but Dante's people had already flanked them, cutting off their escape. It was over in less than 2 minutes. When the shooting stopped, 8 Zanetti men lay on the ground. The rest had their hands on their heads, on their knees, surrounded by Dante's soldiers. I watched as Dante walked through them slowly, gun still in hand. He stopped in front of one man older, with gray hair and an expensive suit now torn and bloodied. They spoke. The man gestured wildly. Dante's expression never changed. Then Dante raised his gun and shot him in the leg. I flinched, even though I couldn't hear the shot. The man collapsed, screaming silently on the monitor. Dante crouched beside him, said something else, then stood and walked away. His men dragged the wounded man toward one of the black SUVs. 5 minutes later, the monitors showed crews already cleaning up. The bodies were being loaded into vans. The blood was being hosed away. By the time police might respond to reports of gunfire, if anyone even called, there would be no evidence anything had happened. I sat down heavily on the bench, my hands shaking. I'd known what Dante was, what he did. But seeing it, watching him shoot someone without hesitation, made it viscerally real in a way nothing else had. This was his world, violence and power and men who disappeared in the night. And somehow, impossibly, I was supposed to decide if I wanted to be part of it. Time passed, I wasn't sure how much. Could have been 20 minutes. Could have been an hour. Then the door mechanism engaged, the locks disengaging with mechanical precision. Dante stepped through. He'd changed clothes, the shirt he'd been wearing was gone, replaced by a black t-shirt that showed off the muscular lines of his arms and chest. There was a cut on his cheekbone, a bruise forming on his jaw. His knuckles were raw, but his eyes found mine immediately, and something in them softened. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice rough. I laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. "Am I all right? I just watched you start a war in your front yard." "I didn't start it," I finished it. He moved closer, and I caught the scent of gunpowder and copper. Blood. The Zanettis came to my home, threatened my family, threatened you. They forced my hand. You shot that man. In the leg. He'll live. Dante's jaw tightened. He's the underboss, second in command. I sent him back to his boss, with a message. Sophia Russo is under my protection. The next person who comes for her leaves in a body bag. How many died tonight? 6. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was reporting the weather. All soldiers who made their choice to attack. And the others, the ones you let live, they'll spread the word that I'm willing to go to war over you. He reached out, his fingers gentle despite the violence they'd just dealt, and touched my face. That you're not just a witness. That you're important to me. Why? The question burst out of me. Why am I so important? You barely know me. This is insane, Dante. All of this. You think I don't know that? His voice rose slightly, frustration bleeding through. You think I wanted to care about a woman who walked into my life 4 days ago? A woman who should have been nothing more than a witness to keep quiet? Then why? Because when you whispered in my ear that night, warning me about the gun, you didn't know who I was. You didn't know if I was good or evil, if I deserved saving. You just saw someone in danger and you acted. His hand slid to the back of my neck, his thumb finding my pulse point. No one does that in my world, Sophia. No one risks themselves without calculating the cost first. But you did, without hesitation. That doesn't mean, and because, he continued, his voice dropping lower, more intense. When I look at you, I see something I thought I'd lost years ago. Hope. The possibility of something beyond blood and money and power. His forehead dropped to mine. You make me want to be the man my mother thought I could be before this life swallowed me whole. My breath caught. This close, I could see the gold flecks in his eyes, the tiny scar at his temple, the way his pupils dilated as he looked at me. I'm scared, I whispered. I know. I watched you shoot someone. I know. His thumb stroked the side of my neck. And I'll probably do it again. I can't change what I am, Sophia. But I can promise that I'll never hurt you. That I'll protect you with everything I have. For how long? Until the next family decides I'm a weakness to exploit? Until someone else comes for me? That's why I offered you the other option. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. Marry me. Not today, not tomorrow if you're not ready. But let me make you untouchable. Let me give you the protection of my name, my family, my empire. You're asking me to marry a man I've known for 4 days. I'm asking you to trust me, to give us a chance. His hands framed my face now, cradling it like something precious. I know it's insane. I know every logical part of your brain is screaming at you to run, but there's another part I can see it in your eyes that's curious, that wonders what it might be like. He wasn't wrong. God help me, he wasn't wrong. What would it be like? I heard myself ask. Being your wife? His eyes darkened with something that made heat pool in my stomach. You'd want for nothing. Safety, security, anything you desired. You could finish school if you wanted, start a business, pursue any dream you've put aside. His thumb traced my lower lip. You'd have my loyalty, my protection, and... He paused, his voice turning rough. My fidelity. I don't share, Sophia. If you were mine, you'd be the only one. And in return, you'd be my partner, my confidant, someone I could trust, in a world where trust is rarer than diamonds. He leaned in, his lips brushing my ear. And you'd share my bed, be mine in every way. The shiver that ran through me had nothing to do with fear. I need time, I managed. To think, to process all of this. Take the time you need. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, then my cheek, then the corner of my mouth so close to a real kiss, but not quite. But while you're thinking, know this. I want you, Sophia Russo. Not just as a responsibility or an obligation. I want you in my home, in my life, in my bed. And I'll wait as long as it takes for you to want me too. He pulled back, and I immediately missed his warmth. Come, let's get you upstairs. I imagine you're tired of concrete walls. He offered his hand. After a moment, I took it. His fingers closed around mine, warm, strong, possessive. As he led me out of the safe room, through the wine cellar, up into the house where men were still cleaning and patrolling and securing every entrance, I realized something terrifying. I was already starting to want him back, and that might be the most dangerous thing of all. Chapter 6. The file she shouldn't have seen. I didn't sleep again that night. How could I? Knowing that Dante had killed 6 men just hours ago. That blood had been spilled on his pristine driveway because of me? But beneath the horror, something else simmered. Something I didn't want to examine too closely. The way he'd looked at me, the way he'd said mine like it was both promise and prayer, the way my body had responded to his proximity, his touch, the dark desire in his eyes. I was losing my mind. That was the only explanation. Morning came with gray skies and rain pattering against the windows. I dressed in yet another outfit that had mysteriously appeared in my closet designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent and ventured downstairs. The house was quieter than usual. Most of Dante's men were probably out handling the aftermath of last night's battle. Marco greeted me with coffee and fresh pastries, but even he seemed subdued. "Mr. Valentini had to attend to business," he said, answering my unasked question. "He'll return this evening. In the meantime, is there anything you need?" What I needed was answers, understanding, some kind of clarity about what the hell I was supposed to do. "Just the library," I said. "I'll be fine." But when I reached the library, my feet kept walking, down another hallway I hadn't explored, past rooms I'd never entered. The guards followed at a discreet distance, but they didn't stop me. Maybe they'd been told I had free reign of the house. Maybe they were just tired of babysitting. I found myself in a wing that felt different, more personal. Family photos on the walls showing a younger Dante with a beautiful woman who must have been his mother. Awards and certificates from his school years. A locked door I didn't try to open. And then, at the end of the hall, an office door left slightly ajar. I shouldn't have entered. I knew that even as my hand pushed it open. It was smaller than Dante's main office, more intimate. A desk covered with papers and files, a laptop open and sleeping, bookcases lined with leather-bound books. This was where he worked when he wanted privacy, I realized. Where he conducted business he didn't want witnessed. I was about to leave when I saw the folder on his desk. My name was written across the tab in neat handwriting. My stomach dropped. I knew I shouldn't look. Knew it was an invasion of privacy, a betrayal of the fragile trust building between us. But my hands moved anyway, flipping open the folder. The first page was a dossier, comprehensive, detailed, invasive. My address, my employment history, my bank account balances, pathetically small, my credit score. Photos of me leaving my apartment, walking to the subway, serving customers at the diner. Some of these were recent, taken in the last few weeks, before the shooting, before I'd saved his life. He'd been watching me, investigating me. But why? I flipped to the next page and found the answer. It was a family tree, the Russo family, going back 3 generations. And there, highlighted in yellow, was my grandfather's name, Giovanni Russo. Beside it, in neat annotation, presumed deceased. Former soldado for Castellano family, disappeared 1987 after testifying against underboss. My grandfather had been in the mob. My hands started shaking. I'd never known him. He'd died before I was born, according to my father. A car accident. That's what we'd been told. But according to this file, he'd been a mobster, a rat, someone who'd turned on his own family. And the Castellano family, that was one of the predecessor organizations to what became the Valentini Empire. I'd learned that much from snippets of conversation I'd overheard, which meant my grandfather had betrayed Dante's family. I kept reading, page after page of information that rewrote my entire understanding of my history. My father had been kept out of the life, given a new identity, relocated to Brooklyn. But he'd always been watched, always been monitored, just like I had been. The final page was dated 2 weeks ago, a surveillance report describing me, my routines, my connections, and at the bottom, in Dante's handwriting, assess potential threat level. If necessary, arrange meeting to determine if Russo bloodline carries same betrayal instincts as grandfather. The folder fell from my numb fingers. He'd known. Before the shooting, before I'd warned him about the assassin, he'd already been investigating me. The meeting at the diner hadn't been coincidence. It had been a test, and I'd walked right into it. I was wondering when you'd find that. I spun around. Dante stood in the doorway, still in his coat, rain dampening his hair. His expression was unreadable. "How long have you been watching me?" My voice was surprisingly steady. 3 weeks. Why? He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. Because 6 weeks ago, I received intelligence that someone with Russo bloodline was making inquiries about my organization, asking questions about my operations, my suppliers, my enemies. That wasn't me. I know that now. He moved closer, and I stepped back. But I needed to be sure. Your grandfather's betrayal cost my father's mentor his life, cost the family millions. The Russo name carries weight in my world, Sophia, not good weight. So you stalked me? Investigated every aspect of my life? Orchestrated some meeting to see if I was a threat? The betrayal tasted like acid. The meeting was coincidence, he said quietly. Or fate, if you believe in such things. I'd been planning to approach you within the week, arrange something more official. But then you walked into that diner on a night I happened to be there, and, he stopped. And you decided to use me. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. The assassination attempt. You knew it was coming. His jaw tightened. I knew the Zanettis were making moves. I didn't know when or where. But you used me anyway. Let me warn you. Play the hero, so you could test my loyalty. See if I'd betray you like my grandfather betrayed yours? At first? Yes. He took another step closer. I held my ground this time. But then you did something I didn't expect. What? You didn't ask for anything in return. Didn't try to leverage your action for gain or advantage. You just... His hand came up, like he wanted to touch me, then dropped. You reminded me that not everyone in this world is calculating and corrupt, that sometimes people are just... Good. Don't. My voice cracked. Don't you dare try to make this romantic. You manipulated me. Used me. Let me think. I stopped, hating the tears that burned my eyes. Let me think I meant something when I was just an investigation. You meant everything, he said fiercely. That's the problem, Sophia. You were supposed to be a potential threat to neutralize. Instead, you became... He stopped, his control fracturing for the first time since I'd known him. You became the most important person in my life. You don't even know me. I know you better than you think. I've read every report, watched every surveillance feed. I know you send money to your father every month even though you can barely afford rent. I know you volunteer at the community center on your days off. I know you haven't dated anyone since your brother died because you won't let anyone close enough to hurt you. His eyes burned into mine. I know that you're scared right now, but you're not running. Because part of you, however small, understands why I had to be careful. Understanding doesn't mean forgiving. I'm not asking for forgiveness. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides. I'm asking for a chance, to prove that what started as strategy became something real. How? I demanded. How am I supposed to trust anything you say now? Because I'm telling you the truth. All of it, ugly as it is. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, his hands cupped my face. Yes, I investigated you. Yes, I was prepared to neutralize you if necessary. But that was before I knew you, before you saved my life, before you challenged me and questioned me and made me want to be better. Pretty words. True words. His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. I'm not a good man, Sophia. I've done terrible things. I'll probably do more terrible things. But with you... His voice turned rough. With you, I want to try. I wanted to push him away. To demand he take me home, end this nightmare, let me go back to my simple, safe, boring life. But I couldn't. Because he was right about one thing. Part of me understood. In his world, trust was currency. Betrayal was death. Of course he'd investigated me. Of course he'd been careful. The fact that he'd changed his mind, that he'd chosen to protect me despite my bloodline, despite the risk that meant something. Didn't it? I need space, I said finally. I need time to think without you standing here, touching me, making it hard to what? To remember why I should be furious with you. His mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close. Take your space. Take your time. But know that the offer still stands. Marry me, Sophia. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that you can trust me. That's insane. Probably. He leaned in, pressing a kiss to my forehead that felt like a brand. But I've never wanted anything more. Then he released me and walked out, leaving me alone with a file full of secrets and a heart that didn't know whether to break or surrender. I sank into the desk chair, my mind spinning, Everything I'd thought about our meeting, our connection, had been built on lies, or half-truths, at least. But did that change how I felt? The way my pulse raced when he looked at me? The way I felt safest in his arms despite knowing what those arms had done? Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm was getting worse, and I had no idea how to weather it. Chapter 7. When His Empire Burns. I spent the rest of the day alone, processing everything I'd learned. By evening, I'd reached an uncomfortable conclusion. I was still alive because Dante had chosen to protect me despite his suspicions. He could have eliminated the threat I represented. He could have used me and discarded me. Instead, he'd gone to war for me. That had to count for something. Even if the foundation of our relationship was twisted and complicated and built on surveillance and secrets, didn't it? I was in my room, watching the storm lash the windows, when I heard the commotion downstairs. Shouting, running footsteps. The unmistakable sound of men mobilizing for something urgent. I opened my door. The guards were gone, pulled away for something more important than babysitting me. More shouting from below. I caught fragments. West Side warehouse, completely engulfed casualties. My heart jumped into my throat. I ran for the stairs. The main floor was chaos. Men strapping on weapons, grabbing phones, pulling on tactical gear. In the center of it all stood Dante, his face carved from stone, barking orders into his phone. I don't care what it takes. Get every available man to that location. I want the Zanetti's heads on plates by midnight. He hung up, immediately dialing another number. What happened? I asked, pushing through. The crowd. His eyes snapped to me. You shouldn't be down here. What happened? The Zanetti's hit 3 of my warehouses simultaneously. One's a total loss, burned to the ground. 8 dead, 12 wounded. His jaw worked. They're escalating. Because of me. Because they're desperate and stupid. He grabbed my arm, pulling me aside as men streamed past. This isn't your fault, Sophia. Yes, it is. The weight of it crushed down on my chest. 8 people died because you won't hand me over. 8 people died because the Zanettis are animals who attacked civilian operations. His grip tightened. Don't you dare take that on yourself. How can I not? Tears burned my eyes. How many more have to die? How much of your empire has to burn before you, all of it? The words were fierce, absolute. I'll burn it all before I let them take you. That's insane. That's love, Bella. The world stopped. He stared at me, looking almost surprised by his own words. Then his expression hardened into something determined and possessive and terrifying in its intensity. I love you, he said, each word deliberate. I know it's too soon. I know I have no right, but I love you, Sophia Russo, and I will raze this entire city to the ground before I let anyone hurt you. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. You don't love me. You can't. This is obsession? Possessiveness? Possessiveness? He pulled me against him, his hand tangling in my hair. Maybe. But it's also real. More real than anything I've felt in 10 years. Boss. Angelo ran up, breathless. The feds are sniffing around the warehouse sites. We need to move our cleanup crews before... Handle it, Dante said without looking away from me. And Angelo? Activate Protocol 7. Angelo's eyes widened. Sir, that's... now. Yes, sir. He disappeared into the chaos. What's Protocol 7? I asked. Total war. Dante's eyes burned into mine. I'm done playing defense. Done letting them think they have any power here. By tomorrow morning, the Zanetti family will cease to exist. Horror and something darker, something satisfied warred in my chest. You're going to kill them all. Yes, because they threatened me. Because they touched what's mine. He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his gaze. And because if I don't end this now, it never ends. There will always be another threat, another family seeing you as leverage. I need to make an example so complete, so brutal, that no one ever makes that mistake again. This is who you are, I whispered. This is what your world is. Yes, no apology in his voice, no shame. This is what I am, Sophia. A monster who protects what he loves by being more monstrous than anyone else. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. Can you live with that? Could I? I thought about my brother, gunned down with no justice. I thought about the Marchetti underboss who'd ordered it, still alive, still comfortable in his prison cell. I thought about the Zanetti soldiers who'd come to this house, who'd killed 8 people tonight, who would kill more tomorrow if given the chance. And I thought about Dante, cold and calculating and dangerous, but also passionate and protective and somehow, impossibly, in love with me. I don't know, I admitted. Something flickered in his eyes, disappointment? Resignation? Then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle like before. This was claiming and desperate and raw, his hand fisted in my hair, tilting my head back, and I gasped against his mouth. He took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't remember why I'd been pulling away. My hands found his shirt, gripping the fabric, pulling him closer even as my mind screamed that this was wrong, this was dangerous, this was perfect. He kissed like he did everything else with absolute focus and devastating intensity. Like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. Like he could pour all his dark, twisted love into this one connection between us. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "I have to go," he said, his voice rough. "I have men to lead, enemies to kill, an empire to defend. Dante, stay here, stay safe." He kissed me once more, quick and hard. "And think about what I said, about marrying me, about choosing this life, with all its darkness and danger, because I'm done pretending I can let you go." Then he was gone, swept up in the tide of men and weapons and violence. I stood there, alone in the foyer, my lips still tingling from his kiss, my heart racing, my mind a mess of confusion and fear and desire. Through the windows, I watched them leave a convoy of black SUVs disappearing into the rainy night. Going to war. Because of me. I returned to my room, locked the door, and lay on the bed, fully clothed. Outside, thunder rolled. Somewhere in the city, men were dying. Blood was being spilled. All because I'd whispered 3 words to a dangerous man in a diner. "Don't move." If I could go back, would I? Would I stay silent? Let him die? Save myself from this nightmare? The answer came immediately, viscerally. No. I'd save him again. Every time. Because despite everything, the lies, the violence, the impossible situation, I was falling for Dante Valentini. God help me. I was falling for the monster. Chapter 8. The choice that changes everything. I must have fallen asleep, because I woke to hands shaking my shoulders and Marco's urgent voice. "Miss Russo, you need to wake up. Now." I bolted upright, my heart hammering. "What? What's wrong?" "Mr. Valentini is requesting your presence. Immediately." His face was grim. "It's important." I followed him through the dark house, past guards who wouldn't meet my eyes, down corridors that felt colder than usual. Dawn was just breaking, gray light filtering through windows, and I realized Dante had been gone all night. Marco led me to the main office, the one I'd been forbidden from entering before. He knocked once, then opened the door. The room was full of men. Dante's inner circle, I realized, all looking exhausted and blood-spattered. And in the center, tied to a chair, was a man I didn't recognize. His face was battered, one eye swollen shut, blood dripping from his nose. Dante stood beside him, perfectly still, perfectly controlled. But when his eyes found mine, something in them made my stomach drop. "Sophia," he said quietly, "come here." I forced my legs to move. The man in the chair tracked me with his good eye, and I saw recognition there, and fear. "Who is this?" I asked. "This," Dante said, his hand settling possessively on my lower back, "is Marco Zanetti, the Don's youngest son. He was part of tonight's attack on my warehouses. The young man he couldn't have been more than 25 spat blood onto the expensive carpet." "Fuck you, Valentini." Dante's expression didn't change. "Marco here has offered me information. The locations of his family's operations, their suppliers, their political connections, everything I need to dismantle the Zanetti empire completely." He paused. "In exchange for his life." "And you're telling me this why?" Dante's hand tightened on my back. "Because I want you to decide his fate." The world tilted. "What?" "You wanted to know what justice looks like in my world. You wanted to understand the cost of being with me." His eyes held mine. "So I'm giving you a choice. Marco Zanetti lives or dies by your word." "No." I stepped back, or tried to. His hand kept me in place. "No, I can't, I won't. He was there tonight, Sophia. He helped plan the warehouse attacks. 8 men died because of him. Families destroyed. Children left without fathers." Dante's voice was calm, clinical. He also gave the order to have you abducted and killed once the initial attacks failed. My blood turned to ice. I looked at Marco, who met my gaze with defiant hatred. She's nothing, he spat. Just a whore you're fucking. But you're willing to start a war over her? You're weak, Valentini. Your father would be ashamed. Dante moved so fast I barely saw it. His fist connected with Marco's jaw, snapping his head back. Blood sprayed. Watch your mouth when you speak about my wife. I'm not your wife, I said automatically. Not yet. Dante straightened, flexing his bruised knuckles. But you will be, once you understand what that means. He turned back to me. So choose, Bella. Does he live? Do I show mercy to a man who wanted you dead? Or does he die? Do I make an example that will echo through every family in this city? This isn't fair, I whispered. You can't ask me to. I can. I am. He moved closer, his voice dropping so only I could hear. You wanted to know who I really am. This is it, Sophia. This is the choice I make every day. Life or death, mercy or vengeance, justice or survival. His hand cupped my face. Now you make it with me. I looked at Marco Zanetti, 25 years old, someone's son, maybe someone's brother, a person, however terrible his actions, but also someone who'd wanted me dead, who'd killed 8 people tonight, who would kill more if given the chance. What happens if I say spare him? I asked. He goes into witness protection, testifies against his family, lives the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, knowing he betrayed his blood. Dante's thumb stroked my cheekbone. And the Zanettis will see it as weakness. Other families will test me. More attacks will come. And if I say kill him, he dies. Quickly, if you're merciful. Slowly, if you're not. His body is found in a place that sends a message, and every family in New York learns that Sophia Russo is untouchable, that I will end bloodlines to protect what's mine. The weight of it crushed down on me. This wasn't just about one man's life. It was about stepping into Dante's world completely, accepting the darkness, becoming complicit in the violence. It was about choosing him. I closed my eyes, thinking about Michael, about the justice he never got, about the Marchetti underboss who'd ordered his death, still alive, still unpunished, about the world that had taken my brother and given me nothing but grief and questions, about Dante, who'd gone to war for me, who'd declared his love in the middle of chaos, who was offering me safety and security, and a future, at the cost of my innocence. I opened my eyes. If he dies, I said slowly, will it end this? Will the Zanettis back down? Yes. Dante's eyes never left mine. They'll have no choice. Their operations are already crippled, lose their heir, and the family collapses. And if he lives? This war continues, possibly for years. More deaths, more attacks, more nights wondering if someone will breach these walls and come for you. Marco laughed, the sound wet and harsh. She won't do it. Look at her, she's soft, weak. She'll cry and beg you to spare me, and you'll do it because you're pussy-whipped, and then my family will kill him. The words came out of me strong and clear. Final. The room went silent. Marco's good eye widened. What? I stepped closer to him, letting him see my face. You wanted me dead. You killed 8 people. You'd do it again without hesitation. My voice didn't shake. So yes, kill him. Dante's hand found mine, squeezing once. You're sure? I looked up at him, saw the test in his eyes, but also something else. Pride, respect, love. I'm sure. He nodded once, then turned to his men. Take him to the warehouse on Pier 7. Make it clean. 1 shot, and make sure his father sees the body. No! Marco thrashed against his restraints. No, you can't. She's just a girl. She doesn't have the authority. She has all the authority she needs, Dante said coldly. She's going to be my wife, which makes her judgments as binding as mine. He looked at his men. Now. They dragged Marco out, his screams echoing down the hallway. I stood perfectly still, watching, feeling nothing and everything at once. When the door closed, leaving us alone with just 2 guards by the entrance, Dante turned to me. How do you feel? He asked quietly. I don't know. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. I just condemned a man to death. You made a choice to protect yourself, to protect us. His hands framed my face. That's not murder, Sophia. That's survival. Is that what you tell yourself? Every day, He pressed his forehead to mine. Welcome to my world, Bella. This is what it means to be my wife. My partner, my equal. I haven't said yes yet, haven't you? His smile was sad. The moment you chose his death over risking mine, you chose me. Chose this life. His lips brushed mine, soft as a prayer. Tell me I'm wrong. I couldn't, because he wasn't. I'd crossed a line tonight. Stepped over a threshold I could never step back across. I'd looked at a human being and decided he should die, and I'd meant it. Michael's face flashed through my mind. If I'd had this choice 3 years ago, if someone had offered me the man who killed him, would I have chosen differently? No. I want Antonio Marchetti dead, I heard myself say. Dante's eyes sharpened. The man who ordered your brother's death. Yes. You offered before. I'm saying yes now. Sophia, if I'm choosing this life, if I'm becoming what you need me to be, then I want that. My hands fisted in his shirt. I want justice for Michael. The kind the system couldn't give me. Dante studied my face for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, and showed me the screen. It was a message to someone named Victor Marchetti. Tonight. Make it look like natural causes. Done, Dante said. He'll be dead before sunrise tomorrow. The satisfaction that flooded through me should have horrified me. Instead, it felt like a weight lifting. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips. We're protecting each other now. That's what partners do. Partners, I repeated. Not just wife, my partner, my equal in everything. His arms wrapped around me, solid and safe. Marry me, Sophia. Make it official. Make it real. I should have said no. Should have asked for more time, more space, more rationality. But I was done being rational. Yes, I said. I'll marry you. His eyes blazed. Say it again. I'll marry you, Dante Valentini. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and full of dark promise. When he pulled back, his smile was pure satisfaction. Tomorrow, he said. I'll have the papers drawn up. We'll make it legal within the week. That fast? I'm not giving you time to change your mind. He kissed me again, softer this time. Besides, I want you in my bed, as my wife. No more separate rooms, no more guards between us, just you and me. Heat pooled in my stomach. Dante, I know you're scared. I know this is fast. His thumb traced my jaw. But I'll be patient. We'll take things at your pace. Everything except the marriage itself that happens this week. You're very bossy. I'm a mob boss. It's in the job description. His smile turned wicked, but I can be very accommodating in other areas, once you're ready. The promise in his eyes made me shiver. I should probably call my father, I said. Tell him I'm getting married. Dante's expression shuddered slightly. About that. He doesn't know where I am, does he? He knows you're safe. That's all he needs to know for now. Dante's jaw tightened. Once we're married, once you're protected by my name, then we can arrange a meeting, but not before. The Zanettis might be crippled, but they still have resources. I won't risk them using your father to get to you. He'll worry. He'll survive. Dante's tone brooked no argument. I'm protecting you, Sophia. That means keeping you isolated until the threat is completely neutralized. You'll thank me later. I should have argued, should have insisted on my right to contact my own father, but I was tired of fighting, of questioning, of resisting the inevitable pull toward this dangerous, complicated man. Okay, I said. We do it your way. Our way, he corrected. You're my partner now, remember? Your opinions matter. Your decisions have weight. He kissed me once more. Now, it's almost dawn, and you haven't slept. Come. He led me out of the office, up the stairs, but instead of stopping at my room, he continued to the master suite at the end of the hall. Dante, not for sex, he said, reading my hesitation. Just for sleep. I want you in my arms. I want to hold you. That's all. The vulnerability in his voice undid me. Okay, I whispered. His room was massive, all dark wood and leather and masculine elegance. The bed could have fit 5 people comfortably. He kicked off his shoes, shrugged out of his jacket, and pulled back the covers. Come here. I climbed in, still fully dressed. He settled beside me, pulling me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me like a shield. Sleep, he murmured into my hair. I've got you. And despite everything, the violence, the death, the impossible choices, I felt safe. I felt home. "I love you," I whispered. His arms tightened. "Say it again." "I love you, Dante." His breath shuddered against my temple. I'll spend every day earning those words. I fell asleep wrapped in the arms of a monster and dreamed of white dresses and dark promises and a future I never imagined. Tomorrow, I would become Sofia Valentini, and God help anyone who tried to stop it. Chapter 9. Blood Vows and Whispered Promises. The next 5 days passed in a blur of preparations. Dante had been serious about not giving me time to change my mind by the second day. Legal documents appeared for me to sign, and by the third, a wedding dress was delivered. Not some gaudy designer monstrosity, but something perfect, simple, elegant, ivory silk that flowed like water. "How did you know my size?" I asked Marco when he presented it. He gave me a knowing look. "Mr. Valentini is very thorough in his research, Miss Russo." "Right. The surveillance, the investigation, the file with photos and measurements and every detail of my life. I should have been creeped out. Instead, I found it almost reassuring. Dante had known everything about me before he fell in love with me. There would be no surprises, no disillusionment when he discovered I wasn't perfect. He already knew exactly who I was, and he wanted me anyway. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday evening, a small, private ceremony in the mansion's garden, just immediate family and Dante's inner circle. I'd asked again about my father, and Dante had promised he was working on it, but he wouldn't budge on the timing my father would meet us after we were married, when I had the protection of the Valentini name. On Thursday, Dante disappeared for most of the day. When he returned that evening, there was something dark and satisfied in his eyes. "It's done," he said simply. I didn't have to ask what. Antonio Marchetti was dead. The man who'd ordered Michael's killing had died in his sleep. A heart attack, the official report would say. I waited to feel guilty, remorseful, something. I felt nothing but relief. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. Dante pulled me into his arms. "We protect each other, always." That night, he asked me to stay in his room again. And the night after. We didn't have sex, he kept his promise, never pushing, always giving me space. But we learned each other in other ways. The way he liked his coffee. The way I hummed when I read. The sound of his heartbeat under my ear. The feel of his fingers running through my hair. Intimacy without intercourse. Trust without conditions. Saturday arrived with clear skies and unseasonable warmth. By evening, the garden had been transformed, thousands of white roses, strings of lights, an altar set up beneath an ancient oak tree. I stood in my room, staring at myself in the mirror. The dress fit perfectly. My hair had been styled by someone Marco, brought in, swept up with a few tendrils framing my face. Simple makeup, no veil. I looked like a bride. I looked terrified. A knock on the door. "Come in." Dante entered, and my breath caught. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than a car. His hair styled perfectly, his jaw freshly shaved. He looked devastating, dangerous. "Mine. You're not supposed to see me before the wedding," I said. "I make my own rules." He closed the distance between us, his eyes moving over me with something close to reverence. "Sophia, you're—" He stopped, speechless for maybe the first time since I'd known him. "I'm scared," I admitted. "So am I." That surprised me. "You? What could you possibly be scared of? That you'll realize what you're giving up, that you'll change your mind." His hand cupped my face. "That I'm not enough to make you happy in this life I'm asking you to share. Dante, let me finish." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "I'm not a good man. I never will be. I'll always be violent when necessary, ruthless with my enemies, uncompromising in protecting what's mine. But with you," his voice turned rough, "with you, I want to be better. Softer. Someone worthy of the trust you're giving me." Tears pricked my eyes. "I love you. Even knowing what I am, especially knowing what you are." I rose on my toes, pressing a kiss to his jaw. "Because you're also the man who went to war to protect me, who holds me at night, who looks at me like I'm something precious. You are precious." His forehead dropped to mine. "You're everything." A discreet cough from the doorway. Marco stood there, apologetic but firm. "Sir, the priest is ready." Dante nodded, then turned back to me. "Last chance to run. Are you trying to get rid of me?" "Never." He kissed me softly. "I'll see you at the altar, Sofia Russo. soon to be Sofia Valentini. He left, and I took a deep breath. Marco offered his arm. Shall we, Miss Russo? Your groom is waiting. We walked through the house, out, into the garden where sunset painted everything gold. Chairs had been set up, maybe 30 people total. Dante's inner circle, some men I didn't recognize, and my heart stopped. My father stood near the altar, looking uncomfortable in a borrowed suit. Tears were streaming down his weathered face. Dad? I broke away from Marco, running to him. Dad, how? Sofia. He crushed me in a hug. Baby girl, I was so worried. They said you were fine, but He pulled back, looking me over. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? No, Dad. I'm fine. I promise. Mr. Valentini explained everything. My father's voice was hard, protective, about the danger, about why you couldn't contact me. His eyes found Dante across the garden. He asked for my blessing, said he wouldn't marry you without it. He did? He did. My father's jaw worked. I don't like his world, Sofia. I don't like what he is. But he cupped my face. The way he looks at you, like you hung the moon, like he'd burn the world to keep you safe. That's how I looked at your mother. Fresh tears spilled over. I love him, Dad. I know you do, baby. I can see it. He kissed my forehead. Michael would approve. He always said you needed someone strong enough to handle your stubborn streak. The mention of Michael made my chest ache. I miss him. Me too. Every day. My father took my hand. But he'd want you to be happy, safe. And if this man can give you that, he glanced at Dante again. Then you have my blessing. Music started a string quartet I hadn't noticed before. My father offered his arm, and together we walked down the makeshift aisle. Dante waited at the altar, his eyes locked on me with an intensity that made everything else fade away. When we reached him, my father placed my hand in Dante's, then stepped back. Take care of my daughter, he said quietly. With my life, Dante promised. The priest began the ceremony short, traditional, in Italian that I barely understood. But I understood the important parts. The vows, the promises. Do you, Dante Salvatore Valentini, take Sofia Marie Russo to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death do you part? I do. His voice was strong, certain. And do you, Sofia Marie Russo, take Dante Salvatore Valentini to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, until death do you part? This was it. My last chance to back out. To choose safety over love, simplicity over complexity. I looked at Dante, at the man who'd investigated me and protected me and loved me despite every logical reason not to. The man who'd made me question everything I thought I knew about right and wrong, justice and mercy. The man who'd made me feel more alive than I had in years. I do. His smile was brilliant, possessive, triumphant. The priest continued, blessing our union, but I barely heard it. I was drowning in Dante's eyes, in the promise I saw there. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Dante's hands cradled my face, and he kissed me like he'd been waiting his entire life for this moment, deep and claiming, and full of dark promise. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathless. Mine, he murmured against my lips. Yours, I agreed. Applause erupted. We turned to face our guests, my father crying openly, Dante's men grinning, Marco looking satisfied. We'd done it. I was Sofia Valentini now. The reception was small, tasteful, good food, better wine, toasts that ranged from heartfelt to profane. My father pulled me aside at one point, hugging me fiercely. I'm staying at a hotel nearby, he said. Mr. Valentini arranged it. I'll see you tomorrow for breakfast? Of course. I kissed his cheek. I love you, Dad. I love you too, baby girl. Be happy. Then he was gone, and I was left in a garden full of dangerous men celebrating my marriage to the most dangerous of them, all. Dante found me near the roses, staring up at the stars. Tired? He asked. Overwhelmed. We can end this whenever you want. Send everyone home. His arms wrapped around me from behind. I only need one thing tonight. What's that? You, in our bed, as my wife. Heat flooded through me. Dante, I'm not expecting anything, he said quickly. If you want to just sleep, we sleep. But I want you close. Want to hold you. Want to wake up tomorrow with you in my arms. Knowing you're mine legally, officially, irrevocably. I turned in his arms. And if I want more than sleep? His eyes darkened. Then you'll have everything I can give you. I rose on my toes, kissing him. Let's go upstairs. We have guests. You said we can end this whenever I want. I want to now. I bit his lower lip gently. I want my husband alone. His control snapped. He swept me into his arms, carrying me toward the house while his men cheered and catcalled. Marco, he called over his shoulder. End the party. My wife and I are retiring for the evening. He carried me through the house, up the stairs, into the master suite, our suite now. He kicked the door shut, set me on my feet, and just looked at me. You're sure? He asked. No rush, Sophia. We have the rest of our lives. I'm sure. I reached for the zipper of my dress. Make me yours, Dante. Completely. His hands covered mine, taking over. With pleasure, Mrs. Valentini. The dress pooled at my feet. His jacket hit the floor. Shirts, pants, everything that separated us disappeared until we stood skin to skin, heartbeat to heartbeat. Beautiful, he breathed, his hands tracing my curves like I was something precious. So damn beautiful. He lifted me, carrying me to the bed. What followed was tender and intense, claiming and giving, a perfect fusion of darkness and light. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, my head on his chest, I finally felt at peace. I love you, I whispered. I love you more. His fingers traced patterns on my bare back. Thank you. For what? For choosing me, for trusting me, for being brave enough to step into my world. He kissed the top of my head. I'll spend every day making sure you never regret it. I won't, I promised. And I meant it. Chapter 10. Queen of the Underworld. 3 months later, I stood in Dante's office, our office now reviewing security reports for our legitimate businesses. Yes, our. Dante had made good on his promise. I wasn't just his wife in name. I was his partner in every sense. I'd learned the business, met the key players, established myself as someone to be respected and, when necessary, feared. The families had tested me at first, subtle provocations, attempts to undermine my authority, but Dante had stood firm, and so had I. The Zanetti family was gone, dismantled completely. The Marchettis had fallen into disarray after Antonio's death, and the other families, they'd learned. Sophia Valentini was untouchable. Mrs. Valentini? Marco appeared in the doorway. Your father is here for lunch. I smiled. Dad visited twice a week now, slowly accepting my new life. He'd even grudgingly admitted to liking Dante. Send him in. But it wasn't just my father who entered. Dante was with him, looking pleased about something. What's going on? I asked suspiciously. Dante crossed to me, pulling me into a kiss. Happy anniversary, Bella. Our anniversary is in 9 months. 3-month anniversary. Still counts. He handed me an envelope. Open it. Inside were legal documents. It took me a moment to understand what I was reading. Then my eyes widened. This is you bought Romano's diner? I bought the building. The diner comes with it. His smile was soft. I know you missed working there. Missed the regularity, the simplicity. So now you own it. Do whatever you want with it. Keep it running, renovate it, turn it into something else entirely. Tears burned my eyes. Dante, you gave up your whole life for me. The least I can do is give you pieces of it back. He cupped my face. I love you, Sophia. More every day. I love you too. I kissed him, not caring that my father and Marco were watching. Thank you. Actually, my father interrupted, I have news too. We both turned to him. I'm retiring from construction. My back can't handle it anymore. He smiled sheepishly. Dante offered me a job managing some of his legitimate properties. Nothing illegal, he added quickly, seeing my expression. Just building management, maintenance coordination, good pay, good benefits. I looked at Dante. You offered my father a job? He's family now. Family takes care of family. Dante's arm wrapped around my waist. Besides, it gives him an excuse to be around more. I know how much you miss him. My father cleared his throat, looking emotional. He's a good man, Sophia. I was wrong to doubt him. Later, after lunch, after my father left and Marco returned to his duties, Dante pulled me into his lap in the office chair. Happy? He asked. Deliriously, I kissed his nose, though I should probably tell you something. What? I'm pregnant. He froze. What? 2 months. I found out last week. I bit my lip. I wanted to wait for the right moment to tell you, but he kissed me, deep and long and full of joy. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. A baby? His hand splayed across my still flat stomach. Our baby? Yes. I'm going to be a father. Wonder filled his voice. Sophia, He stopped, overwhelmed. Are you happy? I asked, suddenly nervous. Happy? He laughed. Bella, I'm terrified and thrilled and so in love with you I can barely think straight. He kissed me again. A baby. Our baby. She'll be the most protected child in New York, I said wryly. She? Just a feeling. A daughter. His smile turned soft. A little girl with your eyes and your courage. His hands framed my face. I'll give her everything. Safety, love, a better world than the one I inherited. We'll give her everything, I corrected. Together. Together, he agreed. That night, lying in bed, I thought about how far I'd come. From a waitress barely scraping by to the wife of New York's most powerful crime lord. From someone who'd never hurt anyone to someone who'd ordered a man's death without hesitation. I should have felt guilty. Should have mourned the innocent girl I'd been. But I didn't. Because that girl had been alone, scared, struggling. This woman, Sophia Valentini, was loved, protected, powerful. She had a husband who worshipped her, a father who was proud of her, a child on the way, and an empire at her fingertips. She'd whispered 3 words to a dangerous man in a diner, and it had changed everything. Don't move. Those words had saved his life, and given me mine. What are you thinking about? Dante murmured, his hand finding mine in the darkness. The night we met. Best night of my life. Mine too. I rolled to face him. No regrets? Not a single one. He kissed me softly. You? I thought about Michael, about the life I'd left behind, about the lines I'd crossed and could never uncross. No regrets, I said honestly. Not when it led me to you. Good. His arm tightened around me, protective and possessive. Because you're stuck with me now, Mrs. Valentini. For better or worse, till death do us part. I can live with that. Good. He kissed my forehead, my nose, my lips. Now sleep. You're growing our daughter. You need rest. I snuggled into his warmth, safe and loved and home. Outside, the city hummed with life and danger and possibility. But in here, wrapped in my husband's arms, I was untouchable. The waitress who'd saved a mob boss had become the queen of the underworld, and she'd never been happier.